Tomorrow's a big day. President-elect Donald Trump promising to hold that highly anticipated press conference. He's going to answer questions about potential conflicts of interest. Meanwhile, Democrats are asking the House Oversight Committee to investigate those potential Trump conflicts. The chairman of that committee, Jason Chaffetz, says the request is premature, but adding, party won't matter, saying, my job is not to be a cheerleader for the president. My job is to hold them accountable. Chaffetz also vowing to continue the Hillary Clinton email investigation. House Oversight Committee Chairman Jason Chaffetz joins us. Nice to see you, sir.
Hey, Greta, glad to have you back on the air. It's great.
It's fun to be back. Okay, let's talk first about this investigation. Democrats want you to investigate potential conflicts. You say it's premature, and so tomorrow Donald Trump is going to answer questions. What do you want to hear from the president-elect tomorrow to make your decision whether or not to hold a hearing on potential conflicts or not?
Well, my point is I want the president to at least be sworn in. Let him go ahead and be a federal employee before we start, looking and diving into his records. I would also suggest to you that in the 2 years that I've been the oversight chairman, we didn't actually do an investigation of the president himself, Barack Obama. We are looking at departments and agencies and how they operate and their compliance with the laws, and we're going to do the exact same thing with the Trump administration. So if there's a violation, if there's something to look at, of course we're going to look at it. Doesn't mean we're going to investigate everything that comes before our table. We couldn't possibly do that. We haven't been able to do that in the Obama administration.
Well, naturally, everyone's going to think because it's a Republican House, Republican Senate, that you're going to give a Republican president some cover. You say you're not going to be the cheerleader for the president, but at what point? I mean, he's got a huge business operation, and we ought to at least know what it is to see if there are any potential, and I underline potential conflicts. So, how do we know?
Well, we do have to look at it. He does a financial disclosure. It's available to everybody. It's no secret that he's a multi-billionaire with lots of interest around the world and certainly here in the United States. But the president is actually exempt from most of those conflicts of interest laws. I think the voters knew full well that he had lots of these interests. Where it toggles over to benefits to the family, that's when it starts to, I think, get a little bit more precarious. But looking forward to what the president-elect has to say tomorrow, and we'll keep a close eye on it.
Well, that means family. Jared Kushner, are you talking about him and any potential? He says he's going to divest of everything. But do you have any interest in that?
I do, but I think they're actually moving in the right direction. Rather than trying to play some games with this, my understanding is they're going to put him on there as an actual employee. So when he's going through to get security clearances, assuming that he's looking at classified information, other disclosure requirements, he's going to have to act and perform and disclose just like other federal employees, rather than playing this shell game and pretending just because he has access as a family member. They're actually kind of, I think, doing it the right way. I would also remind people that the White House itself is not a department or agency, and so there are anti-nepotism laws on the books, but they relate to departments and agencies. The president, we give great latitude to allowing him to surround himself with the advice that he wants right there in the inner circle of the White House.
All right, I read that you may continue an investigation of Secretary Hillary Clinton, and the first thought I had, knowing that Donald Trump sort of has put it in his rearview mirror, he said in November he wasn't interested. What do we gain except, keeping your committee busy when you could be looking at some of the other things like, fraud and federal employees not paying their taxes, which is one of your issues? Yeah. I mean, so what do you gain? What do you gain by continuing with the Hillary Clinton?
Well, it was potentially one of the largest breaches of security in the history of the State Department. It didn't start this investigation because of political concerns, and just because there's been a political election doesn't mean we just suddenly drop it. We have issues that we want to look at with the FBI. It was just within the last 48 hours that the FBI actually made more of a document dump. Things that they were supposed to, under subpoena and under letters that we had given from the House, they were supposed to provide these documents. They hadn't. In fact, I feel very misled by that. So, and they have these security breaches that we just can't ignore. How did all this classified information that was supposed to be kept in a classified setting, did any of that migrate out the door in a non-secure setting? We've got to look at that. We've got to clean that up.
One of the things you're looking at, what's with federal, there's some federal employees who owe a lot of back taxes who aren't paying. What's with that?
Well, most of them are good, hardworking people, but we unfortunately have about 100,000 people who don't pay about $1 billion in taxes. So they're being paid by the federal taxpayers, but their taxes, their own taxes, they're not paying them. And it gets even worse when you look at the contractors and people that get grants.
Why can't you just withhold it? Pass a law. You got the House, you got the Senate, pass a law and just keep that money and put it back in the Treasury. I mean, we're owed it.
That's why I reintroduced a bill that I've introduced in previous Congresses to say if you're a federal worker and you have back taxes, you haven't been able to pay those taxes, you don't want to, or you have no inclination of paying those taxes, then you should be able to be fired. So you got to pay your taxes just like everybody else.
And who opposes that? Why would anyone oppose that? I mean, you shouldn't give federal employees a pass if they don't have to pay taxes. They get paid well.
I don't know. We passed it out of the House previously, but the Senate never took it up, so we'll give it another go. I just think the principle is clear. If you're going to get paid by the federal taxpayers, you're going to have to pay taxes. It's not asking too much.
I'm with you on that one. I do not understand that one, and I hope that have you talked to Speaker Ryan and to Senator McConnell to see if we can't get this one moving?
Well, I know they're going to do, work on Obamacare and work on tax reform, but this ought to be part of it. This should be something easily we can, in a bipartisan way, come together on. And most of the federal workers, they're doing the right thing. But if you don't pay your taxes, come on, time to get rid of those bad apples.
Tell Speaker Ryan and Senator McConnell I said they can multitask. Every other American multitask. They can work on that one too. And you already have the bill. You have the bill ready. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Greta.